So welcome to another video. In this video, this will be a tutorial on how to use an LED. This will be a new tutorial because I made an older one, but this time I'm going to use TinkeCAD. So for a breadboard, in order to power an LED has a polarity. And what does a polarity mean? A polarity means that you have to connect it in a certain way for it to work. The short leg with the cathode is the negative terminal, and the positive is the anode. So the way we connect this, we have to connect it directly to each respective terminal that corresponds to the lead. So we grab a wire, that is the negative, so we're going to switch that here. That's how it's supposed to be connected. Now let's grab a 9-volt battery, connect these two pins, so with the negative to the negative, and then the positive to the positive. And now what we're going to do, we're just going to change the color of the LED, color of the wire, and that's going to be black. And this is going to be red to distinguish each sign. This is going to be black. And this red. And it's just very simple. It's just a very simple connection. And so we're going to start simulation. And look what happens. Well, why do you think that this thing blew up? Why do you think it got fused and the LED doesn't work anymore? Well, you connect 9 volts directly to an LED, that's probably not a smart idea. You probably know why as we continue on in the video. We'll stop simulation. So, this LED over here, it's not compatible for 9 volts. For it to completely use its maximum energy, you'd need to connect it directly to 5-volt battery. So that's why we need to use a resistor. And what is a resistor? Search it up over here. There's different kinds, but these are for future topics. And so this resistor, we're going to change the resistance to ohms and then 300 ohms. That's what I always use, ohms. And we can connect whichever negative or positive. I mean, we're just going to go for the positive. And resistors don't have a polarity, meaning that you can connect it in any direction, any way you want them. And they still work. And what a resistor is going to do is it's going to limit the current and it's going to drop down the voltage so that the LED can work without blowing up or getting exploded. That's how this works. It's the basic concept of this. And now we're going to start simulation. What's that? Okay, well, this pretty much means that the LED works and now it's functioning well. And that's the very basic red LED circuit that you can try. I mean, it works with any other colored LED. Well, joke's on you, the video has not ended yet. But we are going to be touching on another interesting topic, which is using an Arduino to make this LED blink. And how are we going to do that? Well, let's go ahead and grab an Arduino, right on the search. I don't know what happened there, just tilted. Just tilted, didn't like it. Okay, Arduino Uno R3. Let's grab it. And you see it comes up with all this stuff. That's not what I wanted. Okay, that's not what I wanted either. How can I get rid of it? And can I rotate this? I don't know why it's all tilted. Well, it's not like just. I don't know why I did that. We're not going to use it anyways. So, there it is. It's a floating Arduino with no proper connection. Let's grab an LED. Oh yeah, this is pretty all the code, but I don't know what this is. LED. And these pins, these are the pins you'd use to connect a signal, right? And ground is always going to be negative. Let's connect this to negative, the cathode, black. And so that's your direct connection. I mean, you could risk it and not use a resistor because this Arduino is powered at 5 volts. You'd still be able to power this LED, but you'd probably overheat it. and it's almost, if you go beyond 5 volts, it's going to blow up. So let's just use a resistor just in case. When you do that, extend its legs. This connects to the signal, and this you'd call it on the Arduino to make it work. And so that's our connection. Now we're done with our wiring. Now let's see, how do I get to the other part? Code. Here's code. And I think you have to go to and there was a button you needed to go. Text. Continue. Here we go. And so this is a lot of information. Well, get rid of it. We're not going to use this information. So, pin mode, get rid of it. I mean, we can start with pin mode. I need to briefly explain what's going on. And so, I always start with int. It means it's an integer. You have to call it integer. Because these are our variables. You don't always have to call it. In this situation, you don't. But in order to better explain, you need to use an integer. So an integer, we can call the variable whatever. You can call it your cat's name. You can call it XYZ. Whatever you want to call it. So red pin. That's equal to, and what is it connected to? It's connected to the signal. 7. You have to call it. That's all we're going to do. It's setup. All we need to put is pin mode. And what is pin mode? Pin mode is the procedure that Arduino uses to set up a component either as an output or an input. Output meaning the current goes to the positive direction. And so that's precisely what this LED is going to do. It's literally just connected in series. Very, very basic circuit. Pin mode, setup. What are we going to call it? Well, we're going to put in our variable. What is our variable? Red pin. This is our variable. Now, let's set this as what? An input or an output? Leave in the comments down below. Pause it and put it on comments. I'm waiting. Alright. So it's output. I literally just mentioned it before, and that's all we're going to put for this. Because that's what we're setting up. We're setting up either if it's an output or an input, depending on which component we call it. You'd put it on the setup procedure up here. You'd put this. That's what we're going to use for the LED. So void loop. Void loop means it's a procedure that constantly repeats itself. So we're going to put the code that's needed on the void loop to constantly repeat itself. That's why it's called a void loop. It loops itself infinitely. An infinite amount of times. And so what do we put on the void loop? Well, there's this new command called digital write. Only Arduino recognizes. Digital write red pin. There you go. That's our variable. Once again, plug it in. So how do you turn it on? Well, you set up this as high. High is the only way Arduino is going to recognize it. The only way for you to put a wait is to set up a delay. Delay 500 milliseconds. Seconds to half a second. And that turns it off. Hey, in proper coding, you don't use numbers. You have to set up variables. So you're going to set up another variable. It's going to be delay time. That's the variable I use. You're going to call it 500. Because this delay is half a millisecond, you'd use this delay time variable. And then you'd plug it in down here for the delay. That you're specifying to Arduino that delay time variable represents the 500 milliseconds that are needed for the delay, the wait time. So, delay time. You can set up an integer if you're going to do it. Instead of 500 milliseconds, you do 1,000, which is a second. Digital write. I need to red pin. In order to set it off, you have to put low. Then this is the most basic circuit ever. So easy. A beginner can understand it. And that is all you need to do. That way, it's easier for you to understand to put variables instead of a lot of numbers. Now, what else do we need to do? Well, let's say how much I am in time. Alright. Got a couple minutes left. I'm just going to try and figure out how you can export this. Oh, I think you just click Start Simulation. Oh, our code has some errors. I think I know why. Well, it was there. What's that doing there? It's not doing nothing. These are actually in the wrong direction. It has to be like this. God, why is this wrong? Yeah, well, this obviously is not going to help me. Okay, might be this direction then. I kind of forget sometimes. And it's ridiculous. This stuff is off. This is not the right direction either. Oh my god, what's wrong? Jesus Christ. Oh, I see. I forgot to put a semicolon. I put a semicolon. Now it's going to tell me that the brackets are the wrong way. Yeah, I know it. See if it works now. See, look. You see the LED now? I don't know why it's dimming a little bit. That's probably because of the capacitors. Capacitors, that's for another later topic. The capacitors precisely, they store electrical energy, and once the battery or whatever the source is full, they release that energy, and that makes the LEDs dim. That's exactly what this thing is doing. But if you'd use this on a real life application, the LED would be turning off, turning on, turning off, turning on. That's precisely what we have in the code. And so pretty much that's it. Basic LED circuit, so easy. A beginner I think even a beginner could explain another beginner how to do this circuit so freaking easy. But I think later topic we'll talk about resistors. Or I don't know, I'll just put something a lot easier.